Welcome back to Free Speech Nation. Incredible scenes yesterday in London as Our Fight UK, an organisation made up primarily of non-Jews to stand with Jews and challenge anti-Semitism, attended the Stand Up to Racism march as a collective of anti-racists. Sounds like they'd fit right in, right? Well, the group appeared to have been attacked, with a placard being stolen, and 3 of its members were then arrested. Let's take a look. That doesn't look fun. Our Fight UK claims that this is another example of shocking policing by the Metropolitan Police, leading some to claim this is yet another example of two-tier policing in modern Britain. Joining me now is the founder of Our Fight UK, Mark Birbeck. Mark, welcome.
Okay. Hi, George.
First of all, I should say, I know you, Mark, outside of this TV show. We have stood many times in the cold at these protests, and I'm just very happy that you do it so that I don't have to as much.
Well, you've been very welcome, and thank you for joining us.
Well, tell us what happened yesterday, then.
OK, so, as you rightly said, there was the Stand Up to Racism march, which was being organised as a counter-protest against the Stop the Isolation march that was going on. So they're organising this march, but what they're trying to do is they're trying to effectively say, look, we've got the monopoly here on anti-racism. So all these people over here marching to Parliament Square, you're all bigots, you're all racists, and we have the monopoly on it. So, as we tend to do, we've been doing a lot for the last 15 months, we like to puncture their bubble. So we went along with our placards to say, OK, we're also anti-racist, we're also against anti-Semitism. Are we welcome? So you probably saw there on the video, all of our placards said, are we welcome?
Because it should be pointed out that the anti-racists aren't particularly anti-Semitism.
No, they're not. And you can be sure that if you have the word Israel or if you have the Israeli flag on your poster. So we went to the similar event in October last year and I was spat on. There's video online, if that's the kind of thing you like watching, you know. And yesterday, same kind of thing happened. We were attacked. We were, as you said, property was damaged. Then people were arrested. Niak Gorbani, who's with us this evening, he was attacked in front of the police. So there's other videos which we've put online where his hair is being pulled, he's pushed to the ground, he's being kicked, and the police then take him away and arrest him.
It should be pointed out that it's kind of famous for your sign, Hamas are terrorists, and the police arresting you for that, for stating a fact, a law of this land.
Exactly. It's the same principle we did yesterday. We state something simple and obvious that you would think you couldn't argue with. And, of course, the left being the left, the progressives, you know, have no relation to anything I would think of as left-wing. They can't resist attacking us and shouting and screaming. So.
Yeah, and then, as you say, the police stepped in.
Yeah.
And it seems like, now I've read it, it's quite complicated because it all comes down to them thinking that you were part of another march and you were actually where you were meeting. But it does seem, do you think it's another example of this two-tier policing then?
Well, I don't usually use the word two-tier policing because that gives it too much credit, I think. I mean, it's possible that there is decisions being made on high, but it seems largely incompetence. So the video you saw there was of me being attacked. I was then attacked by these stewards of the march, and then the police fished me out and took me away. And the police were actually quite good. I said, what are you arresting me for? And they said, no, we're not arresting you, we're just taking you away. But then the next thing I hear is 3 of my friends have been arrested, including Niak. So you've got this kind of arbitrariness, even within the same event, where the police kind of don't seem to know what they're doing. Maybe it's two-tier policing, but that gives it too much credit.
Well, that's interesting that you say that. Yes, it could well be just more, as you say, incompetence and just the inability to... there's a sort of hypocrisy there, or it's the unfairness, or do apply this to everybody, essentially. Apply the same rules to everybody.
Absolutely. So we've had that situation many times where they clearly playing to the larger group. Whoever's the larger group, then we come off worse. So that situation yesterday, you could see that even though the stewards were really manhandling Niak, you could see that the police preferred to accommodate to them and placate them rather than deal with an actual real situation of assault. I mean, that's the point. The law was broken. He was assaulted. My property was stolen. And yet the police decided not to intervene.
Well, it's ignoring actual crimes
Absolutely.
for the sake of perceived crimes that then tend to fall apart afterwards. What would you actually like to see from the police then? Because people would say, arguably, that they're in an impossible position. If they are faced with numbers with 50,000 people or 50 people, that's the numbers are going to cause the outcome.
But why? I don't see why. If the law is the law, then it has to be asserted. I mean, they managed to do it a couple of weeks ago in Trafalgar Square. They actually said, you know, these same bigots and racists who attacked us yesterday, you can't be trusted to assemble in front of a synagogue, so we're not going to let you. And they stopped them. And that's a welcome development. We're not calling for the marches to be banned. We're not calling for protests to be banned. But policing of that, and they stuck to their guns, which was a welcome, metaphorically, obviously, which was a welcome development over the last 15 months, because they haven't done a lot of that. So I think it's not about numbers. If they're committed to the idea of upholding the law for everyone, you know, yesterday, why would you arrest a guy who's burnt the Quran? You know, what is it? So it's not necessarily about numbers. It's about them maintaining the law for everybody, like you just said, and that's what they've got to do. And we've got to hold them to that. That's what we're doing. That's what our campaign is doing. Sure.
I mean, it is telling, of course. I mean, and that's, I guess, the whole point of why you attended yesterday, to expose also the hypocrisy with the anti-racist campaigners and their inability to, I guess, part of maybe it's their identity is sort of so caught up in being the good guys that they can't accept that they actually might be on what they'd call the wrong side of history here, or to accept that that nobody's infallible.
Yeah. Well, I think you're right that it doesn't cross their minds. I mean, what's interesting is that when you look at the Twitter feeds and all the rest of it, you can see people saying, well, you know, Mark, Niak, what do you expect? You turn up at these things, you're bound to get a thumping, you know. And OK, fair enough, they can tell we're agitators. But there was a lady there who had a placard that said, my grandparents were killed in a pogrom in Russia. Right, now this shows you how tin-eared they are. Because if I saw that, the last thing I would do is start trying to attack and beat people up. And it didn't even cross their minds. Nobody walked up to her and said, oh, that's in Holocaust Memorial Day week, 80th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz, you know, wow, that's a pretty... Do you know what I mean? Nobody even thought about it. You could just see that these people, they think they're righteous, they're self-righteous, they think they're virtuous, and they just go in hard. They're like...
And that can be dangerous, of course.
And they're like... I think they're the modern brown shirts, you know, they're the sort of... beer keller kind
I've
of
stood
group,
with you,
you know.
at these counter-protests, and the hate is insane. It's like you just want to go home and have a shower and just huddle down. It's horrible. I have to say, the Metropolitan Police spokesperson has said a man and two women were arrested when they intentionally went into the Stand Up to Racism protest area to demonstrate. There were conditions in place under the Public Order Act precisely to prevent groups with opposing views coming together and the inevitable conflicts that occur. The arrests were for a breach of those conditions. We are aware of the video showing a placard being snatched and the subsequent scuffle. Officers have spoken to the man. Inquiries are ongoing. Mark, before we go, I want to talk about an event that you're holding next week, next Sunday, is that right?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you for mentioning.
Well, please, tell us about it.
Yeah, as you rightly say, in London, in North London and online, we'll be holding an event.
Can I just say something? There's a reason why you have to say North London, because you can't say the actual
that's the irony.
Location, right?
We were just talking about the brown shirts. That's the irony, is you can't actually hold a meeting campaigning against anti-Semitism without fear of it being disrupted. So all across London, all across the country, you know, people having to have security in order to hold events. So we have to find a safe venue, which is shocking.
And then you get emailed on the day saying, oh, this is where it's...
That's right, a little bit earlier. But we're holding this event, and it's called Remaking the Promise of Never Again. We feel that the promise of never again has been broken. People are paying lip service to the idea of the Holocaust. We've seen shocking this week, the Holocaust Memorial Day. People are trying to talk about Gaza. People are trying to talk about other atrocities and just writing Jews out of the story, it means there is no lesson. If we lose that part of the story of the Holocaust, it means that it teaches us nothing. People are trying to imply that playground bullying could lead to the Holocaust. It's ridiculous. So we need to reassert that. We've got some great speakers, Brendan O'Neill, who every time I mention him, everybody goes, I love Brendan O'Neill. So if you love Brendan O'Neill...
I love Brendan O'Neill.
Exactly, we all do. So Brendan O'Neill will be speaking, the main plenary in the evening. We've got some academics, Professor Philip Spencer, Jonathan Sacerdoti, the journalist, will be talking to Philip. And then we've got a session on the arts as well. We've got Flor Kent, who's a sculptor, and Jeremy Spencer, who's a poet. So we've got a great line.
I hope it goes great. I think it's 1:30 till the evening.
Yeah.
I'll come, but I'm here. So there we go.
Look at our website, please.
Yeah.
It's all on there.
Well, thank you very much. Mark Birbeck, everybody.
Thank you, guys.